Happy holidays from Haydn behind the music stand. I'm your host, Patty Ryan, and for this Winter Solstice Extravaganza episode, I've invited back past guests from Season 1, violinist Matt Lammers, violist Alexandra Sophocleus, and from Season 2, violinist Marisa Ishikawa, for a special Pen Club celebration and a discussion on performance anxiety in classical music. If you would like to listen to their past episodes, Matt's was titled Matt Lammers, Are You Saying You're a Salmon? Alexandra's was Alexandra Sophocleus, Hiya Toots, and Marisa's was Marisa Ishikawa, He's Creaky But He's Happy, which actually was in reference to Miso, so we gotta say RIP in a moment of silence for Miso. But do you want to share a little bit? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, Marisa, but do you want to share a little bit about Miso?
Oh, well, he did die. He was... We miss him. He was a really big part of our family, and he was 21 years old when he died, so he lived a very, very long life. And I think he was happy until...
He wasn't.
The end, and it was very quick.
Yeah.
So, it was his time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we lost Miso.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, we also lost Suki. So, it was kind of a double whammy.
Yeah.
So, it's the first time my parents' house has ever been without a cat since I was born, and actually before, because they've always had cats. So when I was there visiting for Thanksgiving, I kept thinking I saw ghosts of cats.
Oh, I see.
I kept, seeing them or looking for them in their certain places.
Yeah, because you're so ingrained that there's always a cat somewhere at your house. Oh, that's so strange. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was definitely a little bit more quiet.
Oh.
But,
well, I mean...
Less creaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something else is creaking.
Yeah, the ghost of Miso.
The ghosts, yeah.
We would sometimes in the house hear or something. Cat!
No cat.
It's just a creaky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope that your parents will get back and get another cat. All right. I just wanted to give a shout out to Miso from the beyond because...
Aw, thank you.
Yeah, because that's an awesome cat to have lived for 21 years. That's such an accomplishment. Yeah. All right. Are you guys ready for the snowball questions?
Can you define that? What is that? It sounds scary.
Yeah, you should be scared. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to throw some questions at you like snowballs.
Oh, a lot has happened since season 1.
Yeah, I know, Matt. By the way, your episode apparently was my #1 listened episode this year.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
It's vintage resurgence. I'm like thrift shop clothes. People want to bring me back from
And I believe that Matt's episode was #6. So he was one of my earliest guests I've ever had. So I don't know. I'm just saying, you're popular.
Oh, yeah. Deep tracks.
All right. Here are the snowball questions. Latkes or mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes.
Latkes.
Okay. Eggnog or hot chocolate?
Hot chocolate.
Eggnog.
I've never had eggnog, so I'm gonna have to say hot chocolate.
Wait, you've never had eggnog?
What?
No.
Wait, Matt, you gotta... I know you don't like eggnog.
'Tis the season.
But excluding Marisa, if both were spiked, which would you prefer? The same answer, or...?
Hot toddy.
Okay, alright, gotcha. Alright. That's like a weird middle ground, but that's okay, yeah.
Yeah, I curved your snowball.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Alexandra?
I think my answer would stay the same.
Stay the same, okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Peppermint bark or candy canes?
Peppermint bark.
Definitely peppermint bark.
Peppermint bark for me.
Wow, universal. Okay.
Wow.
I'm gonna yuck some people's yum here, but what is your most hated holiday song?
Oh, that Paul McCartney one.
Oh,
ding, ding,
A
ding,
Wonderful
ding,
Christmas
gong,
Time
gong,
or something
gong,
like that?
ding, ding, ding. Yeah, the Beatles have done better. It's like, really? Your heritage is the Beatles and that's what you come up with?
I like that song.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot.
No, it's okay. That's what I'm saying. We're all yucking someone's yum here, but that's Matt's, earworm.
At least bring back Ravi Shankar or something.
What if it was with a sitar in the background?
It would be better!
I wonder what kind of scales it wouldn't be like pop tune, it'd be like a much different harmony anyway.
20 minutes long, probably.
Alexandra, you look stressed.
I'm sure I have one, because I always have, a strong opinion on something, but I am, totally blanking.
Do you want to volley back? Do you want, Marisa to go first, and then it will kind of spike a memory?
I don't think it's gonna come to me. A song that I do find annoyance with is Mole Kaliki Maka.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, so you say issue with?
You have to give us a rendition now.
That's okay. That's one where I'm like, why? But I
think it's dated.
It's pretty dated. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I also had a boss who was from Hawaii previously, and she ranted. She was like, we do not say that in Hawaii. We say Merry Christmas. Like, she hated that song. And so that just always sticks out in my head as like, it's fraud. That's not actually how it happens. I don't know.
No, but I wonder but I wonder if did some person in Hollywood make up some weird sounding quote unquote Hawaiian word. Melikilikimaka.
I think
you know
it is
mean?
technically Merry Christmas, but it's not like frequently said, I think was what my former boss used to say. So, yeah.
Because I think when I've listened to, I don't know why I listened to past other podcasts about old Christmas tunes, but like so many of them are just like cranked out in like some basement in Hollywood. Yeah, it's like, or like somewhere where it's not snow. I think it was like Let It Snow or something was composed like in Hollywood and not like at all near any like, you know, Minnesota environment, you know?
It's
like,
how
do they know about snow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
it just,
I'm tangenting. Yeah.
You're good.
Marisa?
I really do not like Little Drummer Boy.
I'm there with you.
Oh,
that's a good one.
I can't stand
Yeah.
It's like Bolero.
Yes! That's totally right!
Yeah, and but nothing happens. Nothing happens.
You're not even a cool trombone solo.
So that's
a
my
good one.
That's my contribution.
Yeah, that's not my favorite either. Yeah, probably because I also usually in like a string quartet arrangement I have to play like the drum part, which is not very interesting.
When you bring that up, all I can think about is Angela from The Office doing the karaoke.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Dwight's in the back.
It's like that's the one thing that makes me like the song is that reference.
All right, moving forward. Peanut brittle or caramel?
Peanut brittle.
Caramel. Sorry, that was Midwestern of me to say it like that.
Oh, I don't know. Is that like a regional way of saying like a word in America? I guess I always grew up saying caramel, but
yeah, and I was always told by my East Coast relatives that caramel is the proper way to say it, but I just always say caramel.
Uppity. Yeah. Okay. So
I can corroborate in Minnesota.
We say caramel in Minnesota. Yeah.
Caramel.
I grew up with caramel, and that's west, I guess, Colorado.
Well, I went to, my high school that I went to was Mount Carmel, but it was Carmel. So maybe that was we needed to like differentiate.
Have the distinction.
Yeah.
I understand that it's technically the correct pronunciation, but it's more of like I don't care.
Potato, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marisa.
Peanut brittle.
Okay. Butter cookies or gingerbread?
Gingerbread.
Butter cookies.
Okay, yeah. Apparently these are very food-oriented when I wrote these questions. I was hungry. I don't know. All right, here's one that isn't, though. If you were playing Secret Santa with a notable composer, who would you want to select, and what gift would you give them?
So who would I select to give to, or who would I select to receive from?
No, you're giving a gift to the composer. But you need to select...
And it's a Secret Santa.
Yeah, so you, like, if the Secret Santa wasn't, like, a randomized version, if you could, like, select which composer, and you could give them something, what would you do? Who would it be and what would you do?
Oh, wow.
Alexandra's face.
I'm so stressed.
I know. I'm so sorry. This is like the last thing you want to do today, too, right? Like,
I mean, I'd probably choose Schubert and give him antibiotics. I think that's the final answer, yeah.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Schubert passed away from complications of syphilis, so that's where the antibiotics would be very useful, because then he could keep living. That's like a life-saving gift, Matt.
Wow, the gift of life, really. That's remarkable.
But does he have insurance?
Well, I guess you could do that with a lot of other composers, too. Like Lully. Mm-hmm. Didn't he die of gangrene?
Yeah, because he stubbed his toe with his baton, which back in the day was a big pole that they, like, beat the ground with.
Or Beethoven, you could give him a drinking cup made of aluminum rather than lead.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. I thought you were going to say hearing aids. That's fine.
I mean, I think Beethoven did pretty well without hearing aids, though.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the crux of his artistry.
Alexandra, do you got an answer?
Sure. I'm gonna pick Tchaikovsky because the Nutcracker is one of my favorite parts of the Christmas season.
Okay.
And I would, not that he would want this in any way, shape, or form, but I would give him all of the desserts that are depicted in the ballet, The Nutcracker.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Wow.
Not that he would want it.
Not that he'd be like...
Less morbid than mine.
He'd be like, it's a little on the nose, isn't it? And I'd be like...
Well, he wrote it. Yeah. Well, he didn't write the Nutcracker, I guess, right? Or did he? Yeah. He wrote the music, but he didn't write the story.
No, he didn't write the story. That's by Hoffman. Right. But he wrote the music to the ballet that we all know and love. Also, the dances are labeled, though, so I don't even know if he had, like, the desserts in mind, or if that was, like, later attributed in productions, but... Then I could be like, look what we've done with your ballet.
Right. We've made amazing food.
Marzipan? Like, I don't know.
Marisa?
I would pick Brahms, and I would give him some kind of joke kit. You know, where you like a prank kit.
Like a whoopee cushion.
Yeah, I would give him a whoopee cushion.
So you're saying like okay, as much as this is in total like respect for Brahms, I'm assuming that we all like Brahms in the room because his music is so dense and deep, and it like goes straight to like, I don't know, the interior darkness of like one's soul, and it's like just lighten up kind of thing, right?
Well, that's actually much more academic of you than my answer. But I used to listen to these history podcasts, maybe, I guess, or they were audiobooks when I would go on long car rides with my mom, and you could get one for each composer, and it was really well narrated, and they did one on Brahms, and so we were listening to it, and apparently, despite him being very serious and kind of salty, he was also a prankster, and he had this joke rocking chair that if you sat on it too far forward, it would tip you off of it forward, like you'd fall out. Or if you sat too far back, it would fall all the way backwards. Wow. And so he would always get people to sit on it. And if a lady perched too far on the front, she'd like just fall out. If somebody sat too far backwards, like they completely flip backwards. And it was a rocking chair, right? So it would come back up. But imagine sitting and then completely falling backwards. And apparently he thought that was really funny. So I would just want to contribute to his...
I see his collection of...
To his merriment.
I guess, yes.
I see.
His merriment.
I see. So this spawns a question for me, because we always talk about Haydn, and we always talk about Mozart, and in some ways we always talk about Beethoven, and a little bit of Schubert and Britten, all as having jokes in their music, or like pranks, or like little tease moments. But I never necessarily assigned any of that in Brahms's music, but maybe this is showing my like a layer that I haven't discovered in Brahms is like any kind of lightness or prankstery things. Have you guys like noticed that in his music?
Well, isn't Academic Festival Overture a compilation of drinking songs for when he was in college?
I didn't know that.
I was told that by a conductor when I played the piece, that it was like him putting to an orchestra songs that he and his friends would drink in university.
Okay, then that would be a total... For sure that's a joke, but it's not like where there's a punchline in the music necessarily. Right? You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas in Haydn, there's like always punchlines everywhere with like silences or with like incomplete phrases or like the joke quartet, for instance.
He's subversive about it.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer is what Alexandra's saying, is that it's just like from the outset, it's just a joke.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, you could also think about his flippancy of like being accused of writing Beethoven's 10th for his first symphony. He'd be like, yeah, and what about it? Like, I don't care.
Yeah. Hot toddy or a wassail?
What is a wassail?
I have the same. All I know that it's in A Christmas Carol, the wassailing one.
Is it a waffle?
No, let me just look up the recipe really quick. A wassail comprises of 2 apples, 8 cups of apple cider, 2 cups orange juice, 1/3 cup lemon juice, 4 cinnamon sticks, 15 whole cloves, or a half teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon ground ginger, 1/4 teaspoon ground nutmeg, and 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar.
That sounds like not a single serving, but...
No, it definitely isn't. How many does it make? It serves 10.
Oh, okay. Whoa.
I mean, I could serve 1 if you really wanted.
Yeah.
But you can make a wassail alcoholic, I think, is the other thing. Because, like, a hot toddy is alcoholic already in nature, right?
A wassailholic? Yeah, all those spices sound nice. I'm gonna go with the wassail.
Even though you've never tried one?
Yeah, I'm taking a leap of faith.
And despite saying earlier that the compromise was a hot toddy between eggnog and hot chocolate, I'm just trying to, like...
I think...
Yeah,
I think throw a little brandy in the wassail and it's gonna be lovely.
I was gonna say, I haven't had either.
Wassail?
Yeah.
It's spelled looking like wassail, but people always say wassail.
Wassail.
Oh, okay, that's... Okay.
I haven't had either drinks in my lifetime, but I will agree with Matt that the wassail sounds nice with all the spices and whatnot.
Should we say the recipe of what a hot toddy is so that you could get a better...
No, I know what's...
Lemon?
Yeah, I know what's in a hot toddy. I've just never had one. So I'm not I'm not going based off experience. This is a purely theoretical answer.
Gotcha. Marisa?
Is the wassail hot?
I think...
Is it a warm drink?
Let me just quickly check.
Oh, it's gotta be.
I think it is, though.
Surely it is.
Yes, bring to a simmer. Yes, it is a hot drink.
Okay.
Matt was worried.
I think I'll still go with the hot toddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really should just make a wassail one day. I'm curious what it also tastes like, too. Maybe when you guys come visit Minnesota, we should make a wassail together.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay,
Love
the good
that.
plan. Okay, Nutcracker or Messiah?
In terms of income potential or enjoyability?
Why? If you're posing that question, then both. I really meant it as enjoyability, but...
For enjoyability, I go Messiah on enjoyability, actually. There's a lot of well-crafted stuff there.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I have to confess, I've actually never done, like, a professional ballet Nutcracker, but you get a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah.
I think, one staging, you're down there for hours, make a killing.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go Nutcracker. It's been, like, my obsession since I was a child, so there's a bit of a nostalgia piece in there. Yeah, there's the Balanchine production with New York City Ballet is filmed. It's, like, a professional filming, and I, like, watched that on a loop as a kid. I know that there's, like, we play Nutcracker all Christmas season, like, as musicians, but I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say Nutcracker also.
Okay. Is there a nostalgia piece to it for you as well from childhood, or?
Yeah, my dad used to play bassoon in the pit for Colorado Ballet for many years, and you could sign up if you had a child of a certain age to come with you to work into the pit, and they could sit next to the conductor.
Oh.
So he would do that sometimes, and I'd get to sit in the pit next to the conductor, like between the conductor and the concertmaster.
Yeah.
And then you could see really what the pit was like, and then you could also see the stage.
Whoa.
Well, as much as the stage as you could.
As the conductor could see.
Yeah. Yeah, well, depending on how many books you put on the chair. But yeah, you could definitely see. It was fun seeing the dancers up that close, too. I definitely witnessed some scary moments that, like, if a dancer jumped and then their partner almost didn't catch them, I heard a couple of expletives. But that you could definitely never hear from the audience.
Yeah.
But it was, otherwise, I mean, the whole thing was very fun. And then the conductor at that time, on certain days, or maybe it was every performance, his wife made these amazing jackets for him that were all Christmas themed. And so some of them, like, I remember one of them was this emerald green jacket that had a Christmas tree on it with bells. So when he would conduct, he would jingle the whole time. It was cute. It was very entertaining.
And festive.
And so, yeah, that's why the Nutcracker.
All right. What are you most thankful for in 2022?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go with her.
You pointed at Marisa.
Oh, thank you for clarifying to our non-visual listeners. Yes.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
By the way, in case, I just assume people know because I know them, but Matt and Marisa are engaged. So that is probably why you said that.
It's not popular knowledge, I guess.
I don't know. I just don't know where my listenership are. So,
yeah.
For the ones that are not around the universe of Artaria and me, yeah.
We haven't made it Facebook official, so it's understandable.
Oh, wow. Dang.
Mass confusion.
I think it's just slipped our minds.
Haven't even thought about that. Have you been aware of that and like dwelling on it?
Because who's on Facebook anymore? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
This year, I'd say I'm really thankful to be progressing in my grad school career and to have started my practicum, like just having a lot of forward movement in my path towards being a therapist.
Yeah, just the momentum aspect of where we were, a year or two ago, kind of, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. When did we record my first podcast? I don't think I'd even started classes yet.
You were about 2 years ago,
yeah.
Actually. I think you were like November or December of 2020.
Yeah. I'd like maybe barely started classes at that point, and now I'm like almost done. So I'm very grateful.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yay.
Yeah.
So
we'll
I'm
get
very
into that a little more, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I'm just grateful to have that as a part of my life and to be doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm grateful for Matt.
Oh, okay. Guys.
Yeah, you didn't have much of a choice on that one, did you?
It's my arm. I'm grateful for all of my family and friends who let me spend my time with them and their time with me, and it's special to be with those people, so I'm grateful for them.
Yeah, I think that's a universal thankfulness to everybody, right? Like, I mean, from all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can 100%. You remind me, when did you guys get engaged? Was it almost a year ago, or has it elapsed?
Yeah, December 20th of last year.
Yeah, okay. If my memory serves, we had a mini pen club.
We did.
Right after you guys got engaged or something like that, right?
Oh, we did, didn't we? Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. Well, this is actually a great transition to talking about the next, because we're done with the snowball questions. We made a snowman out of our snowballs, I guess. But then...
I'm sorry. I was just amused how amused you were by that joke.
How amused I was?
No, just Patty was like,
That means it was a bad joke. That's what that means. The joker is laughing at their joke more than
nervous
everyone else.
Giggling.
You know, that's me probably 95% of the time, so...
Listeners, comment and subscribe if you liked Patty.
Exactly. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, there you go. So, I just wanted to do a small catch-up with everyone's outside interests that you talked about on your episodes. I'm going to skip Matt because I want to finish with his, since we'll explain in a second, but... Can we go to Alexandra, and can you share with us how have you been feeling? You brought the enormously amazing topic of fat liberation to my podcast. Thank you so much for doing that. Can you update us on anything that you've, learned or experienced? Have things gotten more fat friendly in your eyes?
Oh, interesting questions. So... Yeah, well, I guess in my own personal journey, it's continued to progress and become more radical, I guess you could say, in terms of, really embodying the I am okay as I am, and I don't owe people anything about my body.
Right.
Right. Societally, it's kind of an interesting time. There have been some things happening in the media that have led me to kind of sense that there is a resurgence of fat phobia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if y'all are familiar with, I don't know if I want to get too detailed. I've just noticed a lot of fat liberation influencers getting more vitriol in their comments, and there's a lot more debate. An example I'm thinking of is that new Brendan Fraser movie, The Whale, that came out, which is essentially a very fat phobic film played by a man who's wearing a fat suit. So there's just a lot of negative portrayals, and a lot of people are not understanding the criticism of the movie. So that's just an example. And I could go on, but that would be its own episode, and I don't want this to be Alexandra vents about how fat phobia is present in the world.
But I'm honestly very grateful for your input and honesty about this, because I think it's important to get the honest answer of because you have a pulse on that part of the progression of fat liberation and everything. So
right, and I'm always grateful to be able to talk about it on your show. So thank you. Yeah, I would say in some ways there are strides, and in other ways there are setbacks, and that's just sort of the deal. It's nothing we can't handle, but I think especially with the way certain trends are going, and as we kind of are dealing with this aspect of the pandemic, there's just a lot of resurging on what it means to be healthy and thinking about what that means.
Can I just throw one counterpoint in? I don't want this to be in an effort to tie a bow on anything.
Yeah.
But I do want to shout out Lizzo for her incredible work with her show on Amazon Prime.
Oh.
Big Girls, right?
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing. She does incredible work all the time. I'm so great. And I think it's sometimes people like Lizzo, where like when there is this like progress in a movement, that there's backlash that
there's
comes
more
with it. Yeah, right? And so it's kind of like seeing those dimensions of things. And so, no, I completely agree. I think Lizzo does amazing work in progressing that cause.
I hope to like lean listeners towards watching that show if they have access to Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Which is Big Girls, premise of her finding her backup dancers.
Yeah.
And all of them are incredibly energetic and healthy, and she's just trying to find the best dancers and what works for her choreography and whatever.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, she also has a new line with Fabletics, which is fat friendly. So I think that's also just like, there's small things that someone like Lizzo with immense power can push the needle, and we still have a lot of work to do outside of her and what she is able to do on her platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't mean to discount. Right.
You're not. You're totally not. I agree that there are both things, and it's great to identify the positives as well.
We should watch that. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it is really good. Watching it and watching every one of the dancers go through this struggle of identity and then overcoming that with acceptance, it's almost bringing me to tears. Like, it's just so beautiful. Marisa, can you talk about your baking and all the amazing things with bread, I assume, amongst other things that you've done? I was lucky to taste some when I came to visit in Houston, so...
Yeah, that wasn't even a great batch.
But it was so... I enjoyed it, but also watching you make it with such care was even more of a treat.
Oh, thank you. Well, there's not much of an update. I still make sourdough. Mm-hmm. We still just don't buy bread unless I've been gone for a very long time, and the starter, sometimes I test its limits. It's kind of cruel. It's like, let's see
how starved it can be.
If it will survive. Yeah. And so I'll come back after being gone for maybe a month, more than a month, and it looks terrible. It's gray. It has alcohol on the top. It just looks really bad. And it always is like, okay, well, is this going to bounce back? And so, Patty, you look disgusted.
Well, I'm
so sorry. This is not what I fed you, I promise.
No, I'm just thinking, like, when you say alcohol, that means there's some fermentation that happened.
Yeah, that's the whole thing is always fermenting.
Oh,
that's what gives it the sour flavor,
okay.
Yeah. And so, I just pour off the alcohol, and I actually have 2 jars now so that I dump out really everything that's on top and then just keep the scrapings.
Okay.
Just whatever is really left. And then I feed it, and sometimes it takes just a little bit longer to spring back, but it always springs back. It's remarkable.
Wow. Well, it's like a test of life, survival, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. The only time I did an experiment once where I put one starter in the fridge and then I left the other starter out, and I didn't feed the one that was in room temperature every day, and that really molded, and I was like, I don't think this is
safe,
healthy.
Yeah.
So, definitely threw that one away.
A little too much fungal growth.
Yeah, that was not good. But if it's in the fridge, and as long as there's no visible mold, if it's just kind of slurpy looking, I'll still use it, because it really does, it grows, and as long as it grows, it's alive. So, since the episode without you, unfortunately, I did try macarons.
Yes.
Yeah. They're a pain in the
Oh my god.
Oh my god. And doing research too, it was like, you could be underbeating or overbeating, and you'll get the same result.
Yes. I think...
And I did it with Matt's mom, and Matt's mom did so much more research than I did. I think she watched hours of YouTube videos and did all the research for us and was like, watch this part, this is really interesting. We tried so many times, and we would get the puff and we'd get the feet, but sometimes it would be hollow on
That's
the
my problem. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited. I'm sorry. That's my problem.
It's so hard. Yeah.
How do you get it mushy in the middle? I don't
know.
It's always a little like hollow.
Yeah, it's a real pain. So, I don't know. There are some things, like curry, I can kind of make it, unless it's Japanese. I can make Japanese curry, but if it's Indian curry, it tastes better if you just buy it. And I think I'm kind of resigned that, like, macaron, I will just buy them. Mm-hmm. It's so worth it. Like, whoever makes those Great British Baking Show, they seem to always kind of knock it out of the park.
I don't understand how they do. Maybe that's like an eliminating factor. Like, when you're auditioning for the show, you have to make a macaron. I wonder, because I would fail. Yeah.
I would fail too. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Either that or the producers have like a tub of pre-made macarons. You know, if anyone tried to make a macaron, you're just guaranteed to get out. Here, just take one of these.
Right. Yeah. Well, because oftentimes the people that are on that show that end up like on the last spring second say, "Oh, we're gonna make macarons," and it's like they always never end up well, right? Like, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else have I haven't done.
Your bagels are still killing it.
Bagels are still killing it.
Is there...
I don't know if I talked about bagels.
No, I don't.
I
don't remember you talking about them. But okay, you make bagels.
Sourdough bagels.
Oh,
yeah.
For Thanksgiving, she made an awesome Japanese sweet potato pie.
Oh,
yum!
With the purple Japanese sweet potato.
Yeah, and one regular sweet potato thrown in there by accident.
So like a little like lavender.
Yeah, it was just a little something. No, there's this chef that I really like on Instagram, and his website is Labco, LAHBCO, and has a very mixed background and makes the most beautiful food I've ever seen. Just all of the flavors that I love, kind of spicy, fresh, whole foods, and lots of hummus, lots of dips. It looks amazing. And so he made this sweet potato miso pie.
Oh,
so it's Japanese sweet potatoes. Yeah.
Umami
miso. Yeah. So it's Japanese sweet potato with miso, coconut milk, which was great because my dad's lactose intolerant, so we were able to avoid cream. A lot of butter, which I guess it has lactose in it, but he's better with certain
butter.
Like cream, no way. But I think butter was okay.
He's still with us.
And then a little bit of brown sugar, and then I made a pie crust, and then you just mix the sweet potato with the butter miso mixture, and then you bake it, and then at the end you sprinkle pomegranate seeds on top.
Oh,
and
very
it's
colorful.
So good.
Yeah,
very colorful, really yummy, super smooth because Japanese sweet potatoes don't have as much fiber.
Totally. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, so
they're
that's
mushier.
really smooth consistency. Yeah. So that was fun. Yeah.
And also, like, Japanese sweet potato, in my opinion, are actually sweeter than most sweet potatoes. Do you agree with me? Okay. Yeah.
I cut the sugar in half, and it was still pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not... I've always figured I can add, and so I did half of it, tasted it, and was like, that is enough.
Yeah.
So, but I don't like super sweet stuff anyway, so how did you think?
Oh, it was awesome. Highly recommend if you've become estranged with pumpkin pie. It's an upgrade. It's similar sort of sweet, savory, nicely balanced, spiced, but better, dare I say.
And for anyone who is not a seasoned baker and does pumpkin and sometimes it stays liquid in the middle, it's hard to get, the sweet potato won't do that because it's already pretty paste.
Yeah. The consistency of the potato soaks up all the liquid.
Right. So it's just gonna, when you cut it, it's not just gonna splooge everywhere. So
yeah, that's
highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all your baking marvels.
Thank you.
Matt, talk to us about fountain pens.
Oh, they're good. They're happy and healthy and getting along nicely. Talk to it. You look like you had a specific question.
Well, I was just gonna put in that of all the people that I've interviewed about not just their own personal musical origin story and how they got to where they are, but their outside interest. For whatever reason, your outside interest was the one that I just timbered over and have now become a passion of mine.
Yeah, you did. You were.
I tipped over that
suspicious.
waterfall. I really was.
You did.
Yeah, because I was like, what's wrong with a ballpoint pen? It works. Or what's wrong with a roller pen or a Pilot G2? What's wrong with those? And there's nothing wrong with those. But it's not as good as
Actually, there's everything wrong with those.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm kidding.
No, I mean,
this is a no writing utensil judgment zone.
But it's not as good as a fountain pen. I think that's where the magic came when I first wrote with one of your pens, and I was like, oh, crap. And I kind of yearned for it more. And there was again, it was almost about 2 years ago that we were on a Zoom call for whatever reason. And you were pushing fountain pens on me. And I was like, okay, I'll get one. One and only. And then it turned into 11.
Yeah, you said that and I went, Yeah. Well, and then Alexandra is also a memorable conversion story.
Yes.
I got a very indescript text from her at one point. I can't remember what you asked, but it was something along the lines of repairing a fountain pen you used as a kid. And it was just this very subtle kind of, if I wanted to fix this, could I? And somehow that evolved into, look at this ink you could get. And then that was your rabbit hole, because I started getting all these pictures of different shades of purple.
Yep.
And I think you were on Mountain of Ink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mountain of Ink is an awesome, like, blog, website, compendium of ink stuff.
Oh, okay.
Ink
I thought you were going to go further with that sentence, but no, okay.
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know why that has been so contagious, but how many other people have you've influenced also Daniel Kopp, who's going to be a future episode on the podcast. Stay tuned, Lucas. But you've influenced, like, so many other people to get fountain pens, right?
Yeah, quite a few. Well, Marisa is obvious. I take that for granted because she lives so close to the nucleus of enthusiasm.
Right.
And she's suffered accordingly. But yeah, I mean, Ray and Nancy.
Do they still use, I mean, I know you gave them fountain pens. Do they have they talked to you about it?
Nancy allegedly does. And I have to
Allegedly
confess, I
does.
only gave one to Nancy because Ray's a lefty.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just give him a nice pen and it would just smudge and he'd get frustrated.
Oh, so
But
Ray and
yeah,
Nancy
I
are
think-
the two violinists of my string quartet.
Right,
Refresh.
yes. No, it is astonishingly contagious. I mean, students of mine have gone off that deep end.
Kevin, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
Kevin.
yes, yeah, and also what just yesterday actually, one of my awesome 10-year-old students, his name is Henry. Last week I gave him like a little violin polishing kit that Keith, the violin builder I work with, that's like authorized not to damage your instrument. I gave him a little bit of that because he loves to work with his hands, and he and his 4 siblings are all violinists. So I said, here, Henry, start a little enterprise in your household. And I think it must have come from gratitude for that. But he walked in yesterday and he gave me this little gift bag containing a fountain pen.
Aww.
A Pilot Varsity, which is this it's like a, talk about an awesome, inexpensive pen if you want to eventually spend more money on pens.
Right.
To get you started. It's like $3 or $4 for this fountain pen, and it writes beautifully. So shout out to Henry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Well, so I need to do a small backup to a forward front. The backup being, I don't know when Pen Club started, but it started around this tornado hurricane of Alexandra getting into her pen and fixing her pen / getting more inks. And then the rabbit hole that because I wasn't I'm drawn to inks, but I was more drawn to the look of a pen and the feel of a pen. However your gateway entry is to fountain pens, that's what it is. But we then, I don't know when it started, but we started having what's called Pen Club. And it's really been kind of the 4 of us with a couple occasional people that have come in and out of it too.
yes, it's the most exclusive club in town. It's Pen Club.
No, but that's not what we want to say to people, right? Like, we want it to be inclusive, right?
No, it's an excuse to connect with your friends.
Yeah. And so, what we do, and probably this came out of a need for social entertainment during the pandemic, but that we would go on Zoom and, talk about it. For me, I had a lot of questions because I was, a brand new fountain pen owner, and I was like, okay, so wait, what is, this and this and this, and what's a converter versus a cartridge, and why is it important to have a gold nib versus a steel nib, or XYZ things? And Matt, of course, and Marisa were really excited to show me all their collection, which is up there in terms of value and artistry, let's put it that way, for those who make pens. And so Pen Club has been in existence probably about 2 years ago, if I'm getting it correct.
Maybe a little over.
Before,
Possibly.
was it
Maybe?
before we came from Colorado?
No, because I remember the text from Alexandra came while we were living on Truxillo. And then
Okay.
we recorded the podcast episode where I threw Patty off the cliff while we were in Colorado. So it must have been within a 4-month span, summer of 2020.
Something like that.
Everything
Coalesced.
coalesced. I almost said convalesced.
Gladly not that.
Yes, the pandemic turned into a pandemic for us.
Ooh, that's the title of the episode.
Success.
But the problem though is that it's not really a pandemic. Oh no, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm gonna cut.
You're not an idiot.
Is it an
I was mistaken temporarily. I was an idiot for one.
Is it an ependemic? Oh, that didn't land the same way.
I'm gonna be honest, most words I'm barely comprehending right now, so it needs to be just spelled out in a very blunt and serious way, because I'm at a 10 right now, so, as Hannah would say.
So, to progress a little further, I mean, you could probably go back to Matt's episode and listen to all those specifics of what's the difference between a converter and a cartridge, and why a steel nib versus what's an architect nib versus an architect nib versus a normal standard nib, or what is, there's so much other little small details about this writing utensil that's just like taken for granted every day. I don't know if should we go down some of those questions right now?
Sure.
Okay, because I don't remember how much you explicitly said about, like, let's say an architect nib.
Oh, should we do like a speed round of nib definitions?
Yeah, why not? So the nib, let's review. The nib is the part of the pen where you actually write. The ink flows through and you're putting the nib to the paper.
Right. The nib is that metal piece that contacts the paper, and then at the end of the nib there's what's called the tipping, which is usually like a spherical or ovular ball, which they grind down to the size of the nib. So you wind up with a line that's the same width as it is height, because it's just a spherical ball that's ground down. And then if the tipping is still big enough, like if you have a really fat, broad nib, then it's possible to grind that tipping into unique shapes that create variation in either the width or the height of the line as you write. So an architect grind is when this circular writing surface is made narrow so that your side strokes, so up and down wise, the nib is very tall. So your side strokes are really fat, and then your up and down strokes are like razor thin. And so I don't know if that's actually useful.
But that's the difference of so the complete opposite is what's called a broad nib. A
stub nib.
Italic nib.
A stub or italic, right. So an italic is when your side strokes are super thin and your up and down strokes are super fat. Right. You can get a zoom grind, which is where the tipping is basically like carved into a sort of pyramid type shape. So depending on the angle of the pen to the paper, the width of the line changes. That's wild. Then, of course, you can combine all these things, so it turns into this, like, unlimited options for the ways you can shape this thing.
That's like holding a violin or cello viola bow. It's like you have all these strokes that, if you just know how to apply them, you can get all kinds of sounds and textures and shapes out of them.
Yeah, my favorite and kind of weirdest nib.
Yes.
Well, no, that's not. Well, there's Mega Nib.
Okay, that's what I thought.
There's Mega Nib, which is 4 stacked nibs that are welded together by this warlock somewhere, and I think he's in Ohio. I don't know. But this nib it looks like the head of a bird, and because it's 4 nibs stacked, the tip surface is gigantic. So it's like an architect zoom gigantic line. It's like a marker.
It's like a Sharpie.
Yeah, it looks like a Sharpie with ink, and then if you flip it over, if you write with it backwards, it's just an extra fine.
Yeah.
And those are some of my favorite grinds, is where you get a completely different line depending on if you're holding the pen right side up or upside down.
Right. Because it's not just your average pen that you can take for granted that you pick up and it's reliable. And these other nibs are reliable, but they're more interesting.
Yeah, they kind of grab your attention when you uncap it. Whoa!
Yeah. Mega Nib is like intense when I've seen it. Yeah.
It's intense.
Would you mind sending a photo of that to me so listeners can see what we're talking about?
Sure, yeah, and if anyone's curious at looking at this guy's work, his name is Jim Crawford.
I almost thought you were going to say Jim Crud. I'm sorry.
Jim Crawford, and his social media handle is Pensloth. Gonna let that sit there. I don't know why.
Just to ease the tension of... So, like, speaking of Jim Crud, so Jim Crud is a Stringwood nickname for past guest Lucas Button. And Lucas just came to visit the Twin Cities. I just saw him a little bit ago. So did Alexandra. We got together. Yeah. So, shout out Lucas for the Stringwood fam. So, one thing that this year for Pen Club that's a little more special is last year Matt had this brilliant idea to do a ink advent calendar. It was from Goulet Pens, right? If I'm unmistaken.
No, I can't take credit for this idea. I can only take credit for personalizing it. There's an ink maker called Diamine.
Oh, from Diamine.
And every year they release what they call an ink vent calendar, where it's like a prepackaged box advent calendar, and in each of the slots they put a tiny little bottle of ink that they're going to release in the following year or something.
I see.
And so we're, why limit ourselves to Diamine? So I thought it would be fun if we culled from our own collections and put together little vials and samples for each other from a variety of ink makers.
And the thing to add to what Matt's saying is that it's pretty common to find 0.5 fluid ounces of ink, or as in those are called like sample sizes, and those are usually about $1. If not, at the most I've seen it was like $3 or something for one of those things. So it's actually a relatively inexpensive thing to do for each other. Like, probably what's going to be more expensive is the shipping, but that's what we all did for each other. So I can't wait to opening up our inks, because as we all know, we're recording this episode a little bit ahead of time.
Should we do a mini spoiler alert for each other? Like, share with each other one ink that's on the way?
Okay, we can do that. There is one, but there are two that I got because the name was a composer.
Oh. Very topical.
Yes, I thought so.
We will look forward to those.
One is from the Baroque era, and one is from the Romantic era.
Or are they from the Diamine composer set?
It's quite possible if there's a set. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Noodlers also has some composer-named ones.
It's quite, yeah.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
All full discretion, I got all of my samples from Goulet pens.
Nice.
So, I mean, if you want to, like, immediately go searching online for them, but...
Yes. One of the ones I'm excited for Alexandra to get, we pulled from some of the bottles we already own. We siphoned off some of our own for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, oh.
No, sorry, I'm just...
Plot twist, one of them is that stuff Marisa peeled off the starter. That was...
No.
It's not. One of them that we sent you is exclusive. It's only sold at a pen shop here in Houston.
Dromgools!
Yeah, it's a Dromgools exclusive ink, and you can't get it anymore. And so you've got some of that on the way. It's named after a particular Houston public landmark.
Very exciting.
With a color in its name. So you have that to look forward to. And it smells like almond.
I know.
Or vanilla.
I know exactly. Oh,
She knows what it is.
That's so exciting. I've always wanted that ink. I'm thrilled.
It's also festive.
Yeah.
Miller?
Okay.
Wait. Miller. No, Alexander, now you have to guess. Now that we think we've spoiled it, you have to guess and see if
Is it
you're
the
right.
Discovery Green?
It is!
Yes!
Yeah, KWZ Discovery
Okay.
Green. And it's this, yeah, it is this awesome dark green, and then when it's saturated enough, it sheens red. So it's
Yeah.
also very
Cool.
festive.
That's very
Yay.
cool. Marisa, do you have one that you're
Excited
to share with Alexandra?
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that Alexandra loves purple,
Mhm.
so there is a
Was it all
beautiful purple that we are sending to you that is close to my heart, and the name of the ink in a way is referenced in America the Beautiful.
Oh, got it.
Awesome.
It's like the Sphinx has given her riddle.
Awesome.
Okay, well, if any listeners have any questions about fountain pens and why it's so fun to collect them and inks and whatnot, you know who to go to. You can go to Pen Club and ask us. Write the podcast or write Matt and Marisa or Alexandra separately, and we will have some answers for you. So,
Toots, do you not want a spoiler for your ink vent?
oh, I forgot about myself. Sorry, yes, please.
I've been
do.
rejected.
No, I'm sorry, Toots.
So most of your inks, Toots, are siphoned off from my personal ink collection.
Okay.
And as has been previously stated, purple is my favorite color.
I love purple too. It's all
So
good.
be prepared, but there's one purple in particular that I'm very excited about because it is specifically themed in a way that is very Minnesota appropriate.
Oh,
You might have an
great.
idea.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, love me some Prince. All right.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, nice!
It's the dark purple that sheens gold. It's delightful.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So topical.
Ooh.
Thank you,
Yes.
Toots. Yes, yes. All right. Are we all ready to take a break?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Leave me in suspense. All right. We'll be right back. Hey friends, are you enjoying this episode and are excited for more content to come? Consider becoming part of the Haydn Behind the Music Stand family on Patreon. Any contribution level helps keep the podcast alive. That's at patreon.com/Haydn Music Stand. Other ways to support are to recommend episodes to friends and family, and to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It's quick, easy, and a free way to spread the word about my fantastic guests and all the incredible accomplishments they achieve in the music world. Also, feel free to reach out to us through social media at Haydn Music Stand and by email haydnmusicstand@gmail.com. Thanks, and enjoy the episode. Welcome back from the break. So I thought it was going to be very interesting for the four of us to have a discussion about performance anxiety, because I think that we all deal with that at some level on a day-to-day basis. But artists and musicians or dancers or performative arts deal with performance anxiety on a more regular basis. We're confronting it more or less whenever we walk on stage. And we all deal with any kinds of thoughts of either anxiety, imposter syndrome. I think it's pretty rare for someone to go on without any doubts on stage. So I kind of wanted to open the floor, and I know I've mentioned some of my past experiences with performance anxiety in the past, which I can review and reiterate, but I would like to open the floor up to everyone else before I do that. Does anyone have like a particular memory that stuck out to them that despite the fear and anxiety and even potential failure of a performance, it didn't deter you away from music? Or it did in some way?
I mean, the situations that historically have made me the most nervous is playing for a lot of my peers, more so than playing for judges or teachers or professionals of an older generation than myself, because there's that awful sense that everyone is comparing themselves to each other, and that my playing is always being scrutinized in this kind of apples to apples kind of way with my listeners, which is it's a challenging thing to be thinking about as you're playing, because it puts you into sort of this I'm testing myself against their thoughts type mentality. And I don't know that I've ever really overcome that completely, other than I'm no longer in school, so the occasions where I'm playing for my peers have by and large gone away. But in school, that's really hard. So I don't know that I have a lot of psychological advice to how to get over it, because I don't know that I ever got over it other than
just push
getting
through
out of school.
Yeah. Well, so
Yeah,
you're saying
you-
that studio classes were more nerve-wracking to you than a recital, than an audition, than a placement of orchestra, or any of the following, a professional gig of some sort.
Oh, infinitely, yeah, for me at least. Because, yeah, studio class, as far as professional ramifications go, it's total low pressure. But playing for people that you have to socialize with and that might ask you to play with them in the future,
Right.
that feels in the immediate future like a much higher stakes situation. And I'm curious if you guys have found a way around that, because as a teacher, I kind of run out of advice to give pretty quickly, short of saying, okay, don't go to school then.
And that can't be the solution for every student.
No,
right. No, I mean, I'm just joking.
Just go
with you.
hide.
You just hide in a corner and cry.
Run away.
Or like, you don't need friends. They don't need to respect you. Don't even think about that. So I don't have a solution for that.
See, it's interesting to me to hear that, because in my experience, maybe I'm just a person that's more set up to like try to win over the favors of my elders. But actually, it's interesting that you're saying it in the reverse, because what actually matters more is the people that you are, not to traumatize any listeners now, but like it kind of matters like how you play for your peers. But more importantly, I'd say how you conduct yourself around your peers too, not just performance. But I can now, hearing your testimony, relate with what you're saying and why that would be so nerve-wracking, because it's like this acceptance of the masses, of your colleagues, rather than getting approval from a generation above that's going to retire soon.
Yeah, and I guess it's on my mind recently because of the Texas like region and all-state orchestra system, which it blows my mind. What they do, they put all 60 students or something like that, 20 to 60 students in the same room, and they're all in the room as they play their audition for the...
Oh my God!
It's like gladiatorial combat or something. Like, why are they all there? And not only is that just a really socially...
damaging! Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm like horrified.
I know. I'm a professional and I don't want to do that.
I never want to do that.
And
look at Alexandra's
and not only
face.
that, but I know she looks devastated on their behalf.
I'm fully
My
dissociating
palms-
after hearing that.
Well, not only that, but it's also a situation where unless you're within the first 5 people to play, how could you possibly play?
No,
well?
totally.
You're sitting there getting cold.
Yeah,
You're probably under an air conditioner.
What did you say, Alexandra?
I was just gonna say, like, and you keep psyching yourself out and comparing yourself to everyone. That's just
not healthy.
That's traumatizing.
I think I'd bring earplugs.
And a mask, like a sleeping mask.
Totally.
You can't see.
And like how just like the next person like poke you.
Wear
Poke
sunglasses so that
Yeah.
you can just like fall asleep.
Yeah, and the only thing I can say to those students who are kind of traumatized by this is like, well, that's a weird kind of situation. Like, that doesn't occur
That's called a
naturally.
cattle call. That's like an actual cattle call, no? Like, I know people call a cattle call as like an orchestral audition that calls a bunch of people, but at least they get like one-on-one individual attention. It's not like, can you imagine if a professional orchestra audition was like that? That's nuts.
So if anyone has any kind of insight for our Texan youth, please share.
Alexandra, do you
I'm still processing that because I just remember how I felt in high school about playing in front of people, and like I would literally pass away. I all I can think about is like, I get what you're saying, Matt, of like you're advising students in an impossible situation. Like, I think just helping them understand that that's not normal. I think because it's helpful to have that realization of like, actually that's not something you're going to experience a lot, and this is like understandably highly stressful, like but having that empathizing moment of like, that's a lot to go through, and I know you can do it. Yeah, but it is one of those things of like someone just telling you something and you're just like, I don't even know how I would handle that. Like, I would probably be in the same boat. I would be like just gone, just mentally just throop, like yeah. I don't. Oh, God.
So maybe this is a question of mine, which is a leading question, but how much of performance is muscle memory and how much of it is mental fitness?
Oh, I think so much of it is mental fitness. So much of it. I know I talked to Corinne, the violist of my quartet, about this a lot because, speaking personally, I had spent all of my university career, like as a student, working to develop what Corinne and I call an armor to get on stage and to keep your composure and to be able to channel the nervous energy that you have in a positive way versus a negative way. So I think you asked what was a formative experience. I have such a vivid memory being in Suzuki violin and getting up to play like something out of book 4 and thinking that I was ready, and then getting up there and being so nervous that all of the nerves completely took over and I couldn't coordinate my hands. I felt completely out of control, just completely lost it. And it was pretty scarring. I think I still don't trust myself, a lot of it because of that experience. And so just spending all this time trying to figure out, okay, how can I not be so inhibited by this natural reaction to being under stress? And then it comes with practice, and I feel like I got better and better and better at it. And then the pandemic happened, and all of the performing if we performed, all the performing we did was with the camera,
right? Which
completely is different when nobody else is there. It's a completely different experience that when audiences started coming back, I lost this armor. I started feeling kind of sick. I started getting the shakes back much more than I usually do. Like, of course, maybe you'll get a little bow shake here or there, but it was pretty remarkable how quickly that muscle faded. And it wasn't that I wasn't playing, too. That's why I say it's a mental game, not physical, because it was not due to me not practicing, not rehearsing, not having goals in terms of performance, but I just was no longer practicing the mental space that I needed to be in to have a positive experience. And I feel like that is still slowly coming back.
Can I ask you, since you're so descriptive about this, have you developed a regimen for yourself to strengthen that metaphorical armor around you when it comes to performing?
Yeah, I think I have to be really careful when I practice to practice what I'm thinking about when I play.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be really careful to be in the present at all times and really figure out, okay, if I'm going to play this shift, what do I need to think about to be able to play this shift?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I need to play this phrase this way, what do I need to think about to be able to play this way?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's no one answer. I think that mental game is changing all the time, depending on the music, depending on if it's quartet or I'm by myself or whatever. It's going to be different, but there's always, what am I thinking about? What am I thinking about? And being really intentional about staying in the present so that when I go on stage, I don't let, what is it? The sympathetic nervous system? The one that just is, you have no real control over. It's like fight or flight. That I can mentally override that by being like, okay, I feel this way, but I know what I need to do to be able to accomplish this. And I'm not being like, oh, I hope it's okay. I hope I can play it. It's like, I've practiced this and I know what to think about. But the mental practice, that's really hard. And I notice it slip when I practice, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking about what I want to eat for a snack.
Well, I mean, you know, fairness, yeah. Yeah. So here's another question, again, slightly leading, but maybe this isn't so much a question as it is something that I've come to terms with in how I practice, which is I view practicing my instrument or my music as a series of eventualities or improvisations. So as I'm practicing for, let's say my bow is at this part of the tip. What do? Let's say my fourth finger has this tendency to go flat because I don't pronate quite enough. So what if my finger's flat on this? What do I do? So this is just my psyche when it comes to practicing. Is that part of your formula as well? Is this just like a different way of approaching the same conclusion as you, Marisa?
I think it's a different way of approaching the same conclusion. I think if me as a person, if I give myself too much, like you said, a series of improvs, if I do that, then I slip into the negative side of doubt. So like, oh, well, what if I do this? Oh, well, what if I do this? And then instead of reinforcing a positive mental state, I start testing myself and start reinforcing a doubt that when I go on stage, then I'm just like, well, what if I miss it? Well, what if I do this? Well, can I do this? Instead of a more positive mantra of, I know exactly what I need to do. And then, of course, like, I'm human. It doesn't always work out that way. Right. But at least I feel like I can go in with a certain amount of confidence. But I think we're still approaching the same thing on different sides. You're still always training yourself about what am I thinking about versus like, I need to curve my fourth finger. I need to go up and around when I shift up. Like, I'm not thinking necessarily about the technical things in that way. It's more of a mental obstacle course.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting to hear your perspective because for me, it's like, yeah, as you say, coming kind of from different angles, but yet coming to the same resolution.
Yeah. That's the goal, right? That's the pinnacle.
Right. The goal is to have no one know what's going on in the brain as you're performing, right? And to have it seem so easy.
I think that's the other thing too. I mean, I'm getting some of my students ready for just a studio recital, and some of them this is their first studio recital ever. And I have them walk on stage, they have to bow, and they have to say, my name is Marisa Ishikawa, and I will be playing
Wait, they're going to say your name? I'm just kidding.
No. But they're going to say their name. Hopefully, we'll find out. You just never know.
All these little like imposters that are walking around.
Yeah. I should have thought that through a little bit more. No, but they get so nervous. And just saying, okay, you start performing when you walk on stage. So even if you feel nervous, you kind of have to fake it till you make it, right? Never let anybody else see it. But it doesn't mean that you can't feel that way. But you have to also portray a certain, I want to be here.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum. You know? So it's interesting just to say, well, smile.
Right. But there's...
Even if you stumble, just... Yeah.
But there are certain, I'm sorry, I'm like kind of, please other people jump in too, but I'm getting excited because that's exactly how my first music teacher, who was my piano teacher, taught us. And we had recitals every other month. And so she would say, use this formula. My name is Patty Ryan, and I'm going to be playing Czerny's Sonatina in blah, 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 right? Like whatever. And so I remember that was like the one thing that I could walk on stage and just keep my focus on and just regurgitate. And then otherwise I was just gonna like run away or something, like, but it's like, oh no, I have the script, I can go up there and say that. If anything else else fails kind of thing. So I think that's a really useful technique. At least it worked on me. I mean, I was still nervous and never got over that feeling, as you just said. But I get excited about what you're saying because there was probably too late in life for me where I started identifying my anxiety and fear as excitement for performing. And when that switch clicked in my brain of, no, actually what's happening is I've been working so hard to do a really good job in presenting this music rather than, oh God, what is everyone thinking of me? It's like kind of flipping the rock over. That's when I started to feel a little bit more comfortable walking on stage, or at least starting to own that side of the preparation process. And anyway, maybe I should let open the floor to other people to talk about this in general.
Oh, I was just going to say there's the psychology reason that reframe of nerves to excitement can help people. And that's because the sensation of being nervous compared to the sensation of being excited, physiologically, like how they manifest in our bodies is the same, or they're really similar. And so I think what Marisa, you're describing and what Patty, you're describing is that you're doing the mental shift of instead of seeing it as the nervous, you're saying, oh, actually it's excitement. And I think that can really work well for some people. And I think there are some people who are maybe need to be accepting of the fact that it's nerves. It depends on what's helpful for people, right? Because there's different responses. Sometimes people feel like they might be dismissive of their experience and just be like, oh, I'm excited. No, this feeling is really real to me in this moment. But yeah, that's just some psychoeducation on why that reframe can be helpful to people. I will say something that has helped me in my own experience with performance anxiety is the sort of concept of acceptance. And so for me, what helped me was reframing. Every time I was about to go on stage, reframing of there's nothing more I can do to prepare for this performance. And so what happens, and I want to be able to express my music and be in with the music. And so that mode of being what will be, easier said than done, obviously. That has been probably one of the most impactful ways that I have coped with performance anxiety, because it's true, you can't, when you get to a point where you can't prepare any more than you already have. And so if you stress about what you didn't do enough of or what you feel like is still not there, then you're not focusing on what captivates the audience in the moment, which is the music, which is the essence of your performance. And so that's what you can control in the moment. And what will be, will be.
Do you mind if I ask kind of a follow-up?
Sure.
And I guess I'm addressing this to Alexandra just because of your background in psychology too. How would you advise someone, myself included, after a performance where maybe I haven't managed to access that level of acceptance, and then afterwards I feel really terrible about how it went, and just things that I took for granted were going to go well didn't. It just went so much worse than I wanted or expected it to go.
Oh, that happened to me in my senior recital. I went in being I can't practice anymore, so we'll do it. And I hated how I performed one of my pieces. And the only thing that I can really think of is self-compassion. Again, easier said than done because there can be some real world implications that can make things feel very high stakes, like an audition for a job or something like that. But actually, this is something that my own therapist framed to me once that I found to be really helpful. She had me think of a positive mentor in my life and a negative mentor in my life. And what were the traits of the positive mentor? What were the traits of the negative mentor? And the negative mentor was a lot of negative talk and all this sort of stuff. And it was this mindset of, if that teacher wasn't effective to you, then why is talking to yourself like that? How is that going to be effective? And that really was a switch for me in terms of embracing self-compassion, because it was the teachers that were kind and compassionate and understanding and saw me for who I was that were the best educators for me. And so you want to be that for yourself. And so again, it comes to this place of it happened, and I don't mean to sound flippant, but it is this sort of life goes and life continues.
But that's important though. I'm sorry, I got excited.
Yeah.
Again, I might have said this once on a previous episode, forgive me, but there was a coaching I had with Mark Steinberg of the Brentano Quartet. And I don't know why, but I think because it was a quartet coaching, we were doing a Haydn Opus 20 number 5. And I don't know, probably all of us were just feeling really anxious. We were auditioning for all these big quartet things and at the time and whatever. And we had a coaching with Mark at Bobby Mann's String Quartet Seminar. And he just was guys, the roof is not going to fall on you if you don't play this in tune. It was one of those, but it's so stupid, but it it's just so like, but you're absolutely 100% right. Like, why are we obsessing over this like finer details of intonation within a string quartet where like to the normal ear is going to be totally fine? And I know that at the time we were trying to impress those that have that fine tune. But anyway, the point though is that like, look, you have to bring reality back into the picture rather than just hyper focus on this one minor detail that's, might make it or break it in some weird audition, but like doesn't make it or break it to you as a person. No, you're still your own individual at the end of the day.
Well, and I think another way that it can help too is like flip it on yourself. If you saw someone play how you just played, would you be upset with them? Like, would you judge? Would you say they're a horrible, that was horrible, they're a horrible musician? You probably wouldn't, because it's so much easier to like be hypercritical of ourselves when we don't see those things in others. And then another thing that I have found to be helpful for me is remembering what actually interests me in a performance. And I remember I would say this to students a lot at Stringwood, because there would be a lot of preoccupation with like, we need to tune this and this isn't together and all this stuff. And I'd be like, I don't care. Just like in short, because like what's important is conveying something meaningful to people and like creating an emotional impact. That's why people come to listen to music. I'm not going to say everyone, I'm not going to say generalize it, but like I don't go to concerts to hear perfect intonation and technique because that's really boring to me. I want to hear authentic self-expression. That's what I care about. And so for me, sometimes thinking about like just getting back to the values of what makes music important to you can kind of get you out from the details and into the bigger picture of your performance.
I love that.
I do too.
I'm like reflecting on what were my moments of kind of getting over some humps in coming to grips with performance anxiety. And one of the kind of checkpoints that actually comes to mind for me is teaching classroom theory at Rice. And like teaching is performative to a large extent, but teaching a classroom, of like 20 really tired undergrads is like you have a captive audience, but they chose to be there. And the fact that they chose to be there forced me to think more about the reality of how they're thinking. And like, they're not there to be judgmental. They're there because they desire to learn something from me. And that trained me to sort of lean into the information rather than leaning into the way I was feeling, which is exactly along the lines of what Alexandra is saying. And just to kind of put my own personal cap on it of like when that happened for me. And it was with the violin totally out of my hands. And it was the same kind of preparation, coming up with a lesson plan and thinking really hard about how to present material. But when you're worried about other people's absorption of that material, then thinking so hard about, am I presenting this perfectly, kind of goes out the window, because that really isn't what matters.
This also ties in a bit to advice I was given from Paul Cantor and Ivo van der Werf and Jean-Michel Fontenot, who are like, all these teachers of mine in the past, the good teachers of mine in the past, but all of them in some delineation or not, when I asked them, how do you teach? Because I've never really taught, and here I am, plop, I'm a faculty member of Artari Chamber Music School and Stringwood. I never had any formal training, like a doctorate program, etc. And all of them, at the end of whatever little advices they gave me, they all said, it doesn't even matter the content of what you say. You're going to say good content because you know what you're talking about. What matters more is how you convey the information, which is exactly, I think, how all of us perform music or would like to perform music. It doesn't matter every single word or note, articulation, scratch thing that you do on the instrument. It's about the story that you're trying to tell or the thought that you're trying to convey, the emotional story. And especially in a scholastic phase of one's life, it's so easy to get sucked into the funnel of, what summer festival are you going to? Or what master's programs are you applying to? Or like that. God. Yeah. And it's like really damaging, right? Like, cause, and either you like, I was the one that like joined into that conversation when I was in school and I regret it because I wish I wasn't that way, back then. But also like, it's kind of this like weird survivalist thing, but it's so easy to get sucked into is my point. Cause at school, whether you like it or not, and this is probably where Matt's coming with this, is that you're constantly being evaluated against each other, whether you like it it or not, whether you subscribe to it or not, even as a student. And so these weird, unnatural, like, performance anxieties come up. And that's why like thinking about this Texas like mass cattle call of auditions is just like absurd to me. I don't know. Like what?
Yeah.
What are they doing to their children? Like, I mean, I get that it's easier for them, but like, really? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand it.
Yeah. There's a couple things I'll maybe reiterate from past episodes. One of them is advice that Yo-Yo Ma gave me when I asked him the same question: how do you deal with performance anxiety? And his answer was, pretend that your concert or audition or whatever is a party and you are hosting this party and you're preparing all the food, the decorations, the guest list, the time, date, whatever you need to do to set up a party and have music, to set up a great party. Then you open the doors for the party and you invite your guests in, aka the audience. Let's say at some point in the party, soup spills on the ground. What are you going to do? Are you going to make a big deal about the soup that spilled on the ground, or are you going to just clean it up and move on? And that obviously has always stuck with me, because not only is it Yo-Yo Ma telling me this, but it's also like, well, that's a really great metaphor for how one should walk into a performance. You should walk in with the confidence of you did everything that you could. You prepared to the best of your ability. And also that you're going to be there performing at the best of your ability. Like, there is recently a concert of mine with the quartet, and I admitted to them afterward, I was like, I'm sorry, this was the best I could do right now, and I know it wasn't my best, but I had a double concert earlier that day, and I was driving everywhere. I was exhausted, and then I had to play a full other quartet concert of completely different repertoire that I was a little less familiar with. It was just one of those things where it's like, I know I did my best. I know it wasn't great, but every now and then, as a professional, it might happen, and that doesn't mean you're any worse of a musician than you might have believed when you're in school or something. I don't know, trying to be accepted, but...
That metaphor is nice too, because if you host a party, you're excited to see all the people who come. So if you're thinking about the performance as being a party, then when you walk on stage, those people who could be those blank faces who are judging you then become your friends and become people who also are excited to see you,
right,
and you're excited to see them.
Right.
And it's such a inclusive way of thinking about performing, which is so easy to become this separated
across the table,
or you have these lights shining on you, so if you can even see who's out there is a unique experience. And it's not very fun to not be able to even see how many people showed up, you know, but then to have that mentality of like, okay, we're all here because we want to be, and we're all here because we're going to enjoy something. We're going to enjoy this experience. It's a really nice metaphor that he gave.
And one other thing I guess I'll add of what I've learned for myself to combat it, and I still do this to this day, is I will stand in like superwoman pose. I'll do strength poses before walking on stage if I'm super scared. I think there's some neurological explanation of why that works, making yourself sort of more vulnerable, therefore calming your pulse down, or some physiological thing. But
I was going to say, one thing that I've done, especially when I've been in quartets, is be really goofy backstage. I have found that loosens me up. Like, I'll literally like shake my body, because I find that just helps me be open. I know it sounds absurd. But like, I'll just
like do a silly dance.
Yeah. No, literally that.
Shake your colleague's
another
body.
thing was like, I literally loosen my body up. Like, that's my way of like feeling ready, is like just being goofy. It relaxes me. My dad used to come backstage before my quartet concerts, and he would come back and we'd all go, yay! Aww. Just like a quick little, I don't know, there's just something about that, like keeping it like silly, that just helps bring that, and then kind of carry that energy out with you when you want. But I think the strength pose that you're talking about is like a similar vein. It's like kind of preparing your body for what you need it to be, and for like what helps you maintain confidence.
Yeah, and it's like
stage.
Rather than cowering your body inward and trying to protect it, you're actually trying to open it up to receive. Yeah, it's a psychological. That's where I was asking kind of the psychological part of it.
That's delightful. I'm gonna look into that one more, because that's fun. I enjoy that. Yeah.
I know this topic is like so all-encompassing, and just like there's so many variants and things like that. I know the goal of this episode is not to address every single one of them. It's to just just bring light to some of it. Are there any last comments that any of you have? Or are there any lasting positive performance experiences that you had where you tried something and it worked and it solidified how you perceive performance today?
I think for me, with the what everybody said of just, what are you trying to communicate? I think it was one of my graduate degree recitals, but just having this idea of, again, like what Alexandra said, there's nothing more that I can do right now. I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to just enjoy the sound of my violin in this hall. I'm just going to love the sound of the quartet. I'm going to love the sound of me and this pianist, you know? And then your ultimate goal is exactly what you said, is just, what are you trying to communicate? And I think those are really, if I do it successfully, those are some of the most satisfying performances. So yeah, to answer your question. The other thing I will add is thank you for letting us talk about it, because even just sitting here talking to you guys makes me not feel so alone. And sometimes I feel so alone in, no one else seems to be feeling this way. Like, how can I not be this way? Like, everybody else has their calm and I'm sitting here like a basket case.
But that's the armor, right? Isn't that interesting?
It's the armor. Yeah. And I'm so grateful to have other people be open enough to talk about it, because it is a vulnerability, and it really makes me feel more confident too, just knowing that I'm not the only one who is finding strategies to deal with it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Marisa, for sharing, your insight on it. And overall, just very grateful for everyone. But yeah, I mean, I would like to think that we always have a safe space on the podcast to talk about these things. All right, so to just wrap up this episode, I'm curious what your winter holiday plans are for this year. Are you going to have a snowy Christmas?
Yeah, we're headed up to Minnesota for Christmas with my parents, so we'll see you out there. And then for New Year's, we're going to Boulder with Marisa's family, which is always a treat. I just realized if I say everything, Marisa has nothing to say.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to eat lots of cookies in Minnesota.
Yes, we are.
And that'll be fun. And hopefully set up the Christmas village, because we both grew up with those little Christmas ceramic houses that have lights in them.
Yes.
So we're going to hopefully set that up.
Yeah.
It just depends on how much energy we have to get the boxes out of the closet.
I think that's like the hardest part, right? Yeah. It's like,
that is the hardest part.
Yeah.
It is.
And then New Year's is always special for my family because it's a big Japanese holiday. So my dad always goes out.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
With the food.
All out.
Yeah.
It's a feast.
Yeah.
I always talk about food on this podcast.
I mean, it's like, that's the best thing about life sometimes, is food. Like, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And Alexandra, I'm assuming you're staying in town.
I am. Well, after right after Christmas, we're going to go see my mom's side of the family in Chicago. So that'll be nice. Yeah. And in my family, we always make a ton of Christmas cookies. We take Christmas cookies very seriously. So it'll be a good time.
That sounds great. Well, thank you all for your time and insights into performance anxiety. Also, if anyone has any questions or wants to talk about their struggles with any of this, please don't hesitate to at least contact the podcast or me, haydnmusicstand@gmail.com. And I'm assuming I can open the floor to the three of you as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yes.
Come join Pen Club.
Yeah, and also, if you have any questions about fountain pens on a much lighter and more expensive note, although fountain pens do not have to be that expensive. Like, I've made my collection out of, well, except for 1 or 2 pens, under $100. So anyway, happy holidays to everybody. Please stay safe and please stay healthy. And I look forward to the new year with all of you.
Yay.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Yay.
All right. Thanks for listening and have a happy new year. Sushi, say happy holidays.